Well, we definitely received substantial evidence that he was involved in trafficking young women and children to the Virgin Islands for a very long period of time through our airport, through his private jet. And then he would, by helicopter or sometimes boat, would then transport them over to Little St. James. And that's where he has his complex where he lives, which is his official residence as well. And that these young girls and women were subject to sexual assault, sexual exploitation.
For decades, a man moved through the world like a ghost with a golden ticket, untouchable, untraceable, and protected by forces far larger than anyone wanted to admit. To the public, he appeared as a billionaire financier, with a private island, a private jet, and a private circle of friends that stretched from Wall Street to Buckingham Palace. But behind the immaculate suits and the rehearsed charm was a darker ledger, one that would eventually become known as the Epstein Files. This is the story of a man who operated in plain sight and the system that let him do it.
Prince Andrew and the former President Bill Clinton have been named.
More are expected to come out.
In the last few weeks, they've linked Epstein to some very famous names and exposed some very sordid details.
Every great con begins with an illusion. Epstein's was simple. He didn't seem to have a past, no elite upbringing, no prestigious degree, no steady ladder that placed him in the company of billionaires. And yet, by his early 30s, he had penetrated one of the most impenetrable institutions on the planet, Wall Street's Upper East Side power class. Former colleagues recall a man who invented credentials faster than anyone could verify them, a teacher who claimed to be a math genius, a consultant who boasted about deep connections, a financier who, mysteriously, didn't manage money for anyone who could be publicly confirmed. He lived in a world where proof wasn't needed, only confidence. And confidence was Epstein's currency. Behind closed doors, he cultivated a persona of mystery. He encouraged the whispers. The less people knew about him, the more they assumed it was the perfect camouflage. Every criminal empire requires infrastructure. What made Epstein unique was not the operation itself, it was the clientele. His social circle was a constellation of powerful men whose names alone could stop a conversation in any room. Politicians, CEOs, royalty, academics, and billionaires. Men who didn't just hold influence, they embodied it. To some, Epstein was a gateway, to others, a problem solver. But to all, he was a man who understood the one rule of the ultra-elite. Proximity is power. And Epstein collected proximity the way others collected art. He lent money, he hosted gatherings. He offered favors that could not be repaid in any conventional currency. And inside these transactions, inside the quiet exchanges of access and opportunity, he built leverage. Some call it networking. Others call it blackmail. Epstein called it business. The darker side of Epstein's world began quietly, through whispers from young girls in Palm Beach who told stories that sounded too strange to be true.
About a year ago, a friend of mine told me about Jeffrey. She said she was helping him find growth.
She told me about this guy I was short on rent one month, and she told me that all I had to do was give him a massage and he would give me $200.
A man offering money for massages.
Everybody was trying to make money, and at the time I had 2 jobs, I guess.
Preserving the innocence in children is one of the most important responsibilities we carry as adults. Purposely failing children in any way is not an option. And yet there are some in society who have chosen to blatantly disregard this responsibility, using whatever means they have at their disposal to lure children into a life which they should never have been exposed. As we allege today, Jeffrey Epstein is one of those people.
A woman named Ghislaine Maxwell, recruiting girls from malls, schools, street corners, a pyramid scheme of abuse. Girls who came once were asked to bring others. Girls who refused were replaced. Girls who spoke up were ignored, dismissed, or threatened. The system functioned with a chilling efficiency. And like all systems built on exploitation, it depended on silence. For years, silence is exactly what it got. Police departments hesitated. Prosecutors stalled. Witnesses recanted under pressure. Evidence disappeared. And every time an investigation began, a phone call seemed to follow. A phone call from someone powerful, someone interested, someone invested. In 2005, Palm Beach police conducted an investigation that uncovered a pattern of behavior impossible to ignore. Multiple victims, consistent testimonies, clear evidence. Detectives expected a straightforward case. What they encountered instead was a fortress. Epstein hired the best legal dream team money could buy, lawyers who understood not just the law, but the politics behind it. Meetings were held and secret deals were drafted behind closed doors. And then, something unprecedented happened. Epstein secured a non-prosecution agreement that effectively shut down the federal investigation. The punishment? 13 months in a private wing of a county jail where he could leave 6 days a week. The message was unmistakable. Some people are too connected to fall, but the victims never stopped speaking, even if the world wasn't ready to listen. Not yet. Years passed, but the rumors didn't. They grew. They crossed oceans. They began to take shape in the form of leaked flight logs, island photographs, and testimonies from women who had stayed silent for too long. Little St. James, Epstein's private island, became the center of a global conversation, a place described by victims as a prison disguised as a paradise, a place where the powerful could disappear from public life, where the rules didn't apply and where secrets were currency. The Lolita Express, as tabloids later called his jet, carried names that sparked controversy around the world. Not because every person on it was guilty, but because every person on it validated Epstein's narrative. I belong to a world no one can touch, but even the untouchable eventually slip. In 2018, a Miami Herald investigation reopened the case, exposing not only Epstein's crimes, but the extent of the protection he had received. The world changed overnight. Politicians distanced themselves. Former friends denied him. Prosecutors faced pressure. The public demanded answers. In July 2019, the unthinkable happened. Epstein was arrested, and the even more unthinkable followed. 1 month later, he was found dead in his jail cell. The official ruling: suicide. But like every good Netflix true crime mystery, the story didn't end. It fractured. Questions erupted. Conspiracies multiplied. The cameras that failed, the guards who slept, the injuries that didn't match, the missing footage, the strange timing, the even stranger silence. Some believed he was murdered. Others believed he orchestrated his own removal. And many believed the truth was somewhere in between, buried under layers of influence and fear. Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest in 2020 provided a second lens into Epstein's world. Her trial revealed more details: grooming patterns, recruitment methods, the hierarchy of abuse. But what it didn't reveal was just as telling: the names, the people who visited, the people who participated, the people who enabled. Despite thousands of documents, flight logs, witness lists, and sealed files, the full roster of Epstein's network remains obscured. A ghost archive waiting for daylight. Why? Because exposing Epstein was easy. Exposing the system that created him is not. What makes the Epstein Files more than a true crime story is the scale of its unanswered questions. Never has a case combined so much money, so much power, and so much silence. It is the blueprint of a world most people never see. A world where influence is invisible, where crimes are currency, and where a man like Epstein can thrive not because he is brilliant, but because he understands the simple truth: power protects itself. In the years since his death, survivors continue to seek justice. Courts continue to unseal documents. Journalists continue to dig. And every new revelation feels like a fragment of a puzzle that may never be complete. But perhaps the most haunting part is this: Epstein is gone. The system that built him is not. The Epstein case is not a closed chapter. It is an open file, a living document, a story still unfolding in courtrooms, in lawsuits, in testimonies, and in whispers across the highest levels of global power. This isn't just about one man. It's about the world that let him exist. Because the true horror of the Epstein Files is not what he did, but how many people had to look away for so long, and how many still are. But now, the U.S. House of Representatives voted 427-1 to force the Justice Department to release all unclassified Epstein-related files, a near-unanimous moment of bipartisan catharsis. The bill, known as the Epstein Files Transparency Act, is set to compel the release of documents that include flight logs, communications, and other potentially explosive materials. What makes this even more significant? President Trump, who had previously fought or avoided the issue, publicly reversed course, urging Republicans to back the release. "We have nothing to hide," he posted, calling previous resistance a Democrat hoax. That's a dramatic pivot. The optics are impossible to ignore. So will the files actually be released? Yes, to some extent.